South African national cross-country bike action is proudly brought to you by Pepsi Plastics and Yamaha.
Yes, we're talking national off-road cross-country bikes as well as national enduros. Last week we spoke to some of the representatives from MSA and the jury commissioners, and they gave us the lowdown on what is going on in terms of when are we going racing, are we doing off-road, are we doing enduros with what we're faced with at the moment. This time around, I thought we would bring in some of our regional representatives, which will be quite interesting to see what they're doing in their region. I've got Deanne Ballington with us as well. I've got Garth Lant, and I've got Vian du Plessis. Deanne Ballington is from KZN Racing. It was the old Tuskers Club. Vian du Plessis is now in charge of GXCC, which is a huge series that goes on in Gauteng. Garth Lant, last year actually got a special award at MSA because of his dedication to motorsport in South Africa. And Garth Lant, he's from the Western Cape and does just about everything involved in two wheels in the Western Cape. Garth, I'm going to kick off with you. Going forward, how do you see things happening in terms of cross-country bikes, enduros, that type of thing, once we enter the next phase of lockdown, or are we going to get permission to go racing even sooner?
Yeah, Dave, I think we will get to go ahead. I think maybe the way we're looking here in the Western Cape is probably late July, beginning of August, we hope. The next scheduled off-road is in July. We're a bit wary about the July race. I think we're more looking at August. Fortunately, the dates are late August. We've already had two events postponed from CSMX, who run the enduro side, and the Western Cape Off-Road Club have also had a couple events cancelled or postponed. We believe that by August we should be up and running again. Maybe with a few obviously things in place to make it safe for the people, and maybe we're fortunate. Obviously, we don't have many spectators coming to enduros and off-road, so I think the spectator attendance will be okay. And if we can run events with more than 100 gathering people, then I think we'll be good in August.
Thanks for that, Garth. We'll come back to you in a few moments' time. Let's just cross over to Deanne Ballington. Deanne, a famous name, of course. We know you probably are related somewhere to our good friend Cork. In KZN at the moment, have you had a lot of inquiries from riders as to what's going on? What are you guys up to in the region with your clubs, et cetera, et cetera?
Dave, yeah, we have been quite busy behind the scenes, of course, with Zoom meetings, and I'm very fortunate to have a very strong committee. We have 15 very active committee members, a lot of them living on farms. A lot of the areas that we use belong to some of our committee members, or they work on the farms. So the link that we have is amazing. Definitely we are working flat out to see if the landowners are still happy to accommodate us. We've been thinking of so many different things, but change is always scary until it becomes the norm. So when we're talking about a new normal, rare again, when were bikers ever normal? But we certainly have been putting our heads together. What are we going to be doing? Can we run double headers, even triple headers? Do we run 20 at a time, 50 at a time? So we're just waiting for government to give us more definites. We can't really make decisions until we know exactly what government is going to allow us. If we can come out of lockdown completely, then yes, absolutely, we'll be running double, triple headers with the juniors and the seniors. So we're very well prepared. Our course setters are still, now in the last 2 weeks, have been doing more of condensing where we can ride on double headers and still not have to use the same tracks. So we really are working flat out.
Well, that's absolutely brilliant. I'm sure the riders in KZN will be happy about that, particularly seeing that the tracks are being laid out as we speak. Let's cross over then to Vian du Plessis, who's recently taken over the GXCC series. Vian, you've been around quite a long time with off-road and enduro, this type of thing. With GXCCs, you get a large entry. Just trying to think of the logistics of it all, of how you could put your pits across the field, that you could accommodate all of the riders that come to your events.
Yeah, that's, it's a good problem to have. So we've seen in the first two races entries, just over 300 entries per race, and that goes across the board from the juniors to the seniors, two-wheelers and quads. Unfortunately, when you look at what probably could be the lockdown regulations with competing again, where we would have a competitor plus one, maybe a mechanic, immediately we're going to be over 600 people plus the people that work there. So before you know it, we're close on 700 people on the terrain. So that would be one of our biggest concerns. Obviously, as Leanne said, now we would have to wait and see what the regulations would be passed down from government. We can plan as much as we want to and think of all the possibilities, but unless we know exactly what the rules would be that the government passed down onto us, we would not know exactly how to implement those rules.
I think this is going to be quite tricky for all of us going forward. We're going to just chat to Garth Lont, if you can hold his cell phone steady there for a second, Garth.
I'm trying there, Dave.
In the Cape region, obviously, this is the time of year when you have a lot of rain. It's just about ideal time for your events. You've got to be praying that pretty soon you must be able to move forward, given the weather, given the water, that type of thing.
Yeah, Dave, a lot of the areas that we run in are actually still pretty dry. Most of the events are between 100 and 200 k's from the city, so Cape Town City. So the areas are still actually remarkably quite dry. Dams are still pretty low. So yeah, we obviously would like to get going as soon as possible, but it's extremely difficult guessing on how. And like Deanne said, I think double headers and triple headers are going to be the way forward. So it's difficult to say when we can actually go, even though we want to try and get going as soon as possible.
Yeah, and you're talking about guys laying out the courses and doing all that type of thing at the moment. Quite active at the moment. I go out into the bush and ride my bike, and I see we're quite active at the moment. A lot of guys out there actually riding, which is a very big plus sign. Do you think, because of this lockdown, there's got to be some positives? And perhaps the positives are that we're going to be able to bring in riders who haven't ridden for a long time, guys who are champing at the bit. They've got cabin fever. They want to get out there and ride. Do you think that's a possible scenario?
Dave, I think we're all having to think out the box. I've just been chatting to one of the big franchise dealers based in Durban, and he said they've never been so busy. The guys are coming out of lockdown and they've had record number of bike sales. So let's hope that does influence people coming to the races. I live pretty close to Hilton in Pietermaritzburg, which is a riding mecca, and daily we can hear the bikes going out into the bush. So it's definitely a part of what we're hoping for. Before lockdown, we were actually chatting to a couple of the adventure bikers and saying to them we were happy to put together what we call a WOW class, our weekend warrior class, that we can even try having any bike under 800 and having a different class, purely to get through to get more numbers into the race mix. So yeah, we're trying everything.
Looks like we've lost Deanne's video for some reason, but we did get the message. A final word from you there, Vian. As far as you're concerned, obviously numbers are not really going to be an issue, but it's great that you have in fact got people out there as we speak, laying courses, so excited about going forward. I think we could see a bit of a resurgence going on, don't you?
Dave, I've noticed obviously during the lockdown, I'm running a little workshop on my own as well. The numbers declined terribly, but that's understandable. Nobody was allowed to load a bike on the back of a trailer or bakkie and come and drop it off to have it serviced. But since last week, we've just been inundated with so many guys bringing their bikes in for a service and a race prep and a whatever. So we've seen the numbers picking up. Obviously, with all our followers on our Facebook page, we can see the hunger is there. People want to go and race again. There's constant communication amongst everyone on Facebook about racing and when we can go and race again. So, yeah, I think it might be a case where cross borders and that sort of thing might have an influence, especially on our racing, because we've got a lot of guys that come from Lesotho, Swaziland and Botswana to come and compete in our series. And if those borders are not open, then yeah, unfortunately they won't be able to compete. But within the borders of South Africa, in and around Gauteng, where we've got a dense population of people, I do believe that we'll see high numbers. Might not be the 350 mark. It might be 280, maybe 300. But I think people are hungry and they want to go and race again.
Well, I just want to thank you all for joining us this time around. I'm sure all of our riders and everybody involved in the sport out there are quite interested in what you've had to say. I just want to reassure them all that you guys are behind the scenes doing as much as you can. Also working very much with Motorsport South Africa. I think that's quite important that we all know that MSA are meeting the correct people out there in terms of what we can and cannot do in our sport. As Garth said, we're probably quite lucky insofar as we can spread out into a field where we're not just in one little pit area like MotoGP, for instance. So that could be a big plus for us. I just want to thank you all. Final word then from you, Vian, before you go.
Yeah, just to latch on to that, obviously when we do go racing again, we're just going to ask everybody to abide by the rules. If we say that we're going to have a pit lane that normally was about 600 meters long, and now we're going to have to make it 1.2 kilometers with a pit, skip a pit, skip a pit sort of thing, then we're going to have to ask everybody to abide to those rules, because I can only imagine that if we don't stick to the rules and we don't follow those rules, it can be taken away from us very quickly. So it's going to be in everybody's interest to follow those rules. And but really excited. I think with what's going on in the court cases, we might actually be going racing sooner than anticipated. But let's hope and pray that we're looking at August without committing to it.
We're not attorneys, we're not lawyers, we're just giving opinions of the moment. Garth Lont, just a message to your riders from your region. What a final thought from you there?
Yeah, I think we need to all be positive, think out the box, have new ideas, change the setup of everything, and we want the guys to come racing, so we want to put on those races for them.
Deanne, also just a message to your riders from KZN, looking forward, just a message there for them.
Yeah, just to let the guys know that we definitely are still working and looking forward to putting on races. Going to be a lot of virtual stuff happening. I think that's the new word. The new norm is virtual racing, virtual registration, virtual prize givings. You know, we're having to think very much out the box, but we're ready. As soon as we get given the go-ahead, if we get given the go-ahead on Friday, boy, we will be racing on Saturday.
The South African National Cross Country Bike Action is proudly brought to you by Pepsi Plastics and Yamaha.